server. Alright, let's tweet this. That's not a very flattering picture. Alright, just tweeting out that I'm live. Let's get the link. I don't know if any of you have like insomnia. Not saying I do, but like the last, I'd say, what month is it? The last 5 months in the both places I've lived, the construction has just been so fucking bad, and I literally can't sleep. But it starts so early that I was thinking about changing my sleep schedule, but it starts so early and goes on all day. It's like I don't even think there's any point because I would still wake up like after 5 hours and I'd be like, oh, like for fuck's sake, it's gonna be a long day of this noise. Okay, live streaming now. Come and join. And what happens when you keep getting your sleep interrupted is you just start to feel like really crazy. I was thinking that today. I was like, I went for a walk and a run in my local park, and I was just like, damn, I feel so crazy today. Like I don't feel normal. So like it just must be so bad if you have proper which some of you might do, have proper insomnia. I'm just gonna Instagram post this. Live streaming. No. And I just woke up from a nap like 40 minutes ago. Because I just got in from the run and I was so exhausted, and I was like, I gotta sleep before I stream because otherwise I won't be able to stay up. But then it gets annoying because I was so tired and I was like, well, what if I just go to bed? But then what would actually just happen is I'd wake up after maximum like 4 hours, and then I wouldn't be able to go back to sleep. Alright, check this going up. Live streaming now. Cool, it's up. Just checking my DMs. Alright. Hey people, hey Reign of Kelly, hey Yimmy, Dial F for film again. I recognise some people from the last stream. So yeah, what we want to talk about today, I'm going to wait a bit longer just to more people to get in. So Ben Shapiro, it's nothing new, but like his lack of empathy, compassion, just being a decent human being is probably not surprising to people. Let me turn myself up a bit. It's probably not surprising to people, but that's too loud. But reacting to criticism of Israel killing a journalist by calling people anti-Semites is so unhinged. And then there was this account today, I've got it up on screen, standing against anti-Semitism, right? Sounds like it should do something good. It's not. I'm pretty sure it's run by conservatives. And they're basically saying in their long thread called an Anarcho-Kasparian, an anti-Semite, that there have been people who lived in South Africa during apartheid who say Israel is not an apartheid state. So I just kept replying to them with a quote from Desmond Tutu saying it was. And surprise, surprise, out of all the people they've been replying to today, I was not one of them, despite bringing it up about 3 times, because they know they're full of shit. And see, look, the accusation that Israel is an apartheid state, it's just down here, isn't just demonstrably false. It has no resemblance to apartheid South Africa. It's a claim intended to delegitimize and isolate the world's only Jewish state. And then here's Desmond Tutu. We're going to go back over this a bit later. I know firsthand that Israel has created an apartheid reality within its borders and through its occupation. The parallels to my own beloved South Africa are painfully stark. I've been very deeply distressed in my visit to the Holy Land. It reminded me so much of what happened to us black people in South Africa. So apparently it has no resemblance to apartheid South Africa. He was like one of the most famous anti-apartheid campaigners. who obviously lived in South Africa, saying that yes, Israel does very much look like apartheid South Africa. This is something Nelson Mandela said as well. And then the belief that, but then the funny thing is, this person kept trying to cope and tell people that I'm gonna go back over this a bit later. So then look, so asked people who lived under apartheid if Israel fits this bill, and they said several people who lived under apartheid in South Africa said Israel is not an apartheid state. Oh, several people. So have several Arabs living there. So four people for each. And then I say, what about this dude? And I just keep quoting it, and I reply to them, don't leave me on read, bro. What's your point about black South Africans not thinking Israel is an apartheid state? And surprise, surprise, this person was replying to many, many people, was not replying to me. Yeah, apartheid mixed with manifest destiny. Although shit like that always goes pretty hand in hand, to be honest. And I've had people messaging me on Instagram about this as well, just asking how is Israel like apartheid or illegitimate and stuff. The funny thing I always say is is a lot of Israel supporters often say to people like, well, if Israel's illegitimate, then so is the US or Canada or Australia, New Zealand, and I'm just like, yeah, now you're getting it. Yeah, now you're getting it, because those are all illegitimate because they're either former apartheid states or apartheid states built on ethnic cleansing, genocide, and land theft of the native population. So it's very similar to Israel, actually, and they're all illegitimate. I mean, as someone who's on the left, I don't find most countries legitimate, but like, obviously, I have an Irish background, and the thing with Ireland, like, I don't know if you guys know much about Irish history, but Ireland's always been, like, before the English occupation, it was always pretty isolated. Like, it was always just its own thing with like different clans, and then like at times like a high king. There wasn't much. There's no recorded history of people going to Ireland and displacing the native community. Although probably if we go back far enough, like absolutely thousands and thousands of years ago, maybe the people who live on Ireland are genetically related to, I don't know, people in mainland Europe. Who knows? But in terms of modern recorded history, no one else has basically lived there, apart from like the Irish. So like, at least I can understand that conceptually as like a nation state. Whereas with something like America, like I was legit arguing with people on the America subreddit. It's like a patriotic American subreddit. They were trying to argue with me that America isn't a colonialist country, and I kept saying to these people, I was like, America started out as 13 states on the East Coast. It's now 50. One of them is it's just one of them is an island in the Pacific Ocean. It has multiple territories in the Pacific Ocean. Puerto Rico it owns as well. It used to own the Philippines. It basically used to own Cuba as well. How do you think America acquired those? Someone said to me that Hawaiians like Hawaii and native Hawaiians wanted the US to rule them, and it's just like the level of imperialist apologetics this guy was going through to try and convince me. And also he couldn't, he was coping so bad when I said to him, America inspired Nazi Germany, right? And he was like, how dare you say that? Like, we fought the Nazis and kicked their asses. Like, how could you say we inspired them? And he's like, do you have a source about this up? And I just like literally sent him like 5 links from like the history website and like loads of different outlets. I'm like, have fun reading, bro. You might actually learn something. And it's like, that's how badly American history is taught. Like, is it so shocking to say America inspired Nazi Germany on so many levels? I guess it's easy to whitewash that if you fight them in a war and win. It's like Zyklon B was first used by Americans. Sterilizing people with disability done by Americans. Manifest Destiny, which Hitler wanted to replicate in Eastern Europe, obviously done by European settlers who would go on to become Americans. And that kind of spirit carried out even when America was a nation state. And then the apartheid system in America, Jim Crow, Um, the funny thing is, America had such an extensive race law with so many different caveats for different races. The Nazis only had two options to study to make their own racist state, and it was America and South Africa. But they chose America because it was more extensive. Like the apartheid American state was more extensive than the South African one. Best day now that crypto's crash. Yeah, like I was reading on those subreddits, and legit people are saying they're going to kill themselves. Like it actually, the thing is, I've always maintained crypto is a scam because the same types of wealthy people who succeeded in traditional money and the investment world are also the same type of people making money of crypto. And essentially, what it is to me is just another transfer of wealth to the powerful. But your mark is really gullible people who buy into this like wildly fluctuating currency in terms of like things like Bitcoin and just loads of fucking scams which rich celebrities like influencers promote, and then it's basically like a rug pull where they'll sell all their assets in it, and then the they're called shit coins is worth nothing. Um, anyway, so yeah, it's obviously sad because I was reading people who'd put in like their life savings into one crypto, like one cryptocurrency. I mean, okay, I'm not trying to make fun of someone, but never, if you're even investing, I'm not someone who wants to invest any of my money. Maybe don't put it into one thing because then your whole money is tied to like a very volatile, and also crypto as well. Like, come on, it's such a volatile like investment space. Even like traditional stuff is down at the moment, like gold and silver and things, but just like crypto especially, it's just insane. And also you have the ideological people like Jack Dorsey and others who think something like Bitcoin is going to free us from something, but at the end of the day, it's just in my mind this libertarian pipe dream. And apparently, Bitcoin was meant to be unaffected by real world inflation, but supposedly last couple months it's literally just reacted in the exact same way as other assets and currency. Oh, Raphael, do you live in? Guessing you don't live in the Central African Republic. You live in El Salvador. Shit, like yeah, and that guy and the fucking president, he was like buying more Bitcoin. It's so fucking corrupt. Raphael, why did they even elect that guy? Are they just sick of like traditional politics? Yeah, narratives are more powerful than facts. Yeah, for sure. What was I gonna say? So let me read you some of the stuff. Let me see if you guys can. Oh, that's really big. One sec. So if you guys have not been following the crypto shit at the moment, I'm gonna just read some for you. Okay. All right. So shockwaves swept through cryptocurrency markets on Thursday as Tether, the largest stablecoin and foundational part of the digital asset ecosystem, broke its peg to the dollar in the latest blow to the struggling sector. Bitcoin and Ethereum, two of the biggest cryptocurrencies, showed 5% and 12% respectively, extending losses that have seen both fall more than 20% over the past week. Losses have been even bigger for smaller players, with Dogecoin following 10% on Thursday and 35% over the week. I don't know if you guys saw the graph of Dogecoin. It's literally just like nothing. It's so crazy. Um, like all stable coins, Tether is intended to only ever trade at a fixed value relative to conventional currency. Once a Tether token is always one Tether token is meant to be $1. However, on Monday, another prominent stablecoin, Terra, broke its peg to the dollar and has slumped since, now trading at barely half of its supposed value. That appears to have precipitated a wider crash, with even the blue chip cryptocurrencies plummeting over the past week, there is a definite whiff of panic in the crypto space right now. The Terra incident is causing an industry-based panic, as Terra is the world's third biggest stablecoin. Bitcoin, the biggest cryptocurrency, was trading at 29,000 on Thursday, giving it a total value of 500 billion compared with its peak of more than 1 trillion last year. So there's been like a meme in like the Bitcoin subreddits, and it's basically saying that like Bitcoin's going to hit like 100K for one Bitcoin. And I even remember when it was on like, I think it was like 50K. Was that like January 2021 or February 2021? And now it's on 29,000, and some people were saying it might go down to like 19,000. So if you bought Bitcoin maybe like 5 years ago, you'd still have like a fair bit of profit. If you bought Bitcoin in the last year, you're fucked basically. And then just going on a bit further. So this I don't mind so much. It's also hit crypto billionaires. The fortune of Changpeng Zhao, the founder of the Binance cryptocurrency exchange, has fallen by 84 billion this year to 4.5 billion. Well, not too bad, but that is a lot of money to lose. While the Winklevoss twins, co-founders of Gemini, have lost more than 2 billion each this year. So that's a nice silver lining for you. So there's one more thing I want to read. Is this thing? Yes, I was on the Luna subreddit yesterday, and let me see if I can. Okay, so this is one of the cryptocurrencies that crashed. So talking about that Terra thing. So one member of the subreddit said in a post that they had thought about cashing out when Luna was trading at $100 in March and early April, but held off to see if they could earn enough for a down payment on a house. When Luna crashed, they said to have lost $17,000. I really believe in the project and the builders in the ecosystem. I didn't get out because I got greedy and hoped it would be more. Well, now, even if I want to get out, I can't, as all my Luna was locked staking. Another user wrote they had lost more than $450,000. I cannot pay the bank. I will lose my home soon, the user wrote. Fortune could not verify the user's losses. Yeah, so I was reading that as well. Basically, there was a ton of suicidal posts on the Luna subreddit because people had lost so much fucking money. And obviously, people sometimes borrow money to invest as well. But it's just like, on one level, it's funny, like keeping it real. Like crypto, people into crypto are so fucking insufferable. But on the other hand, I know like really random people in my own life who are big into crypto and they had never invested anything before. Like they're like have Ethereum and shit like that. And okay, I know for a fact they don't have much. So like they're not going bankrupt off this crash. But if people I know who aren't into like the investment world are doing stuff like this, I can 100% believe there are so many people who maybe have never been big investors, then start buying up crypto with their money. Because the thing is, the sales pitch for crypto is insane. Because I don't know if you guys, you can tell me in the comments if this has happened to you, but unlike traditional investing, especially nowadays, I haven't heard a sales pitch for investing in oil or gold or anything like that, which is like, yeah, put this in and you're going to get rich really quick. Where I've heard a lot of times with Bitcoin and just various cryptocurrencies, like easy money, like it can only go up. Look at the trends in this chart. Like it's not going to crash. It's you know, something that doesn't go with normal inflation. Like it's not going to spiral. And then all it takes is like one Elon Musk tweet to send it absolutely like crazy spiraling value. Like Elon Musk, was it a pumped Dogecoin, like, 'cause bought a shit ton of it, starts tweeting stuff about Tesla and Bitcoin, and the price goes up. So it's just like, you know, it's just something that is so volatile. I hope this turns people off it. And also the problem with Bitcoin, unlike real assets, is there is nothing backing up the value. Like if it in like traditional investment, obviously a lot of it is a tangible product for one thing. Like what is Bitcoin? Like it's not anything tangible. It's not like oil, it's not like gold, it's not like something that can be bought and sold like in real world markets. It could just be bought and sold online, and there's nothing really backing up its value. So there's nothing that can really help it once it's crashed. Like what could help that lunar currency? It's not like when oil crashed. When was it? Like 2 years ago, and then in 2014 there's a big oil crash, and like when the oil crashed, loads of people lost money. Places like Venezuela were fucked, but then obviously it's this product that most of the world use like a shit ton of, so the price will always at least trend back up, and maybe not to the price it was because it has some inherent value. But things like cryptocurrency, like what is the value? And because people aren't trading, it's like with the dollar. Like when the dollar crashes, or even the ruble in Russia crashes, um, for a lot of these more powerful countries, it's still gonna climb back up at some point. Whereas like they're saying with this lunar crypto, like it probably will never recover. Like it'll always be worth like basically fucking nothing. So you've just completely lost all your money. So just reading some comments quick. Yeah, base proletariat. Maybe stop saying that. I might ban you. You can't say a Jewish person making bad points is going to make you a racist. Yeah, Eric Peters, that's funny. Has there ever been a time when there hasn't been a goddamn crash? Feel like I've been hearing about this stuff since I was a kid. Nice little game that rich people play. Yeah, so the thing is, obviously, if you're like my age or maybe a bit younger, of course, if you're older, 2008 was like an absolutely massive crash. 2007, 2008. And then there's going to be another recession, apparently, says Deutsche Bank and the Bank of England. So that'll be fun. And yeah, but the thing is, there's always recessions, isn't there? It's like under Reagan, I think there was two. I think there's obviously multiple in the 1970s. But that's the problem with capitalism, isn't it? It's like you push it too far, and you have a system that melts down like every 7 years, and then who's left picking up the pieces? It's not the rich people. Like who gets bailed out? Who can like afford not afford, but like to going bankrupt is way harder on your average person than someone with like significant assets. And like it's with the housing market crash in 07, 08, and it's just it's so sickening because it's like the rich fuck around with stuff so much, especially like the housing crash, like gamble, because basically how a bank works, for people who don't know or maybe haven't really thought about it. So you put your money in a bank, and the trade-off is like your money is all secure. You can move it around a lot easier thanks to their systems. The payoff is your money essentially does not exist, right? You can't go to a bank and take out all your money. Um, and that's because the banks have all your money tied up in their investments to make them more money, and that's how it works for them. So they take your money and they gamble it on different things, or they invest in different things. So bankers get to fuck around with infinite amount of cash to make their bank even more money, and and when when they destroy the economy and the market crashes, well, who does that fall on the most? Like inflation, cost of living, jobs being cut. It doesn't affect the people who destroy the economy, and no one was arrested for the 2007-8 crash. One Icelandic banker, I think. Not all the fucking elite in Wall Street or the City of London who destroyed the economy. One fucking guy, one fucking scapegoat. And apparently, I forgot what I think he gave an interview saying like what he did was bad, but like it was nothing compared to like so many people he knew. Basically a patsy. Yeah, that's capitalism for you. Boom bust, recession. Yep. Chocolate orange coin. Yeah. If I was a million sub YouTuber, maybe I would. Yeah, just want another one of those once in a lifetime crashes. Nothing to see here. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, Abe, you got more hope of Earth surviving another 200 years. I don't know if any of you guys don't spoil because I'm still playing for it. I think Horizon Forbidden West and Horizon Zero Dawn have really good, like really interesting messages about like capitalism and environmentalism and just like what these people like how psychotic rich people are. I think it's like a really good message of that game. I'd love to make a video on it actually, because I guess it's like it's so wrapped up in this more like fantasy sci-fi aesthetic, but there is actually good contemporary commentary there as well. I'll put 100 down on some chocolate orange coin. Yeah, we got to make some chocolate orange NFTs. Yeah, the NFT market has crashed big time as well, and that's the thing, right? So do you remember people were tweeting about this? Do you remember the Super Bowl commercial with Matt Damon promoting cryptocurrency? And someone was like, "This shit was everywhere, like for like 6 months, and now it's fucked basically, and no one's gonna be promoting it again." And all those celebrities with stupid NFT photos apparently gonna get you know, gonna well, I assume they're probably gonna backtrack from it, because it just looks so bad when it's doing so bad. But then it's like if all these rich people are trying to make something happen, I remember gaming companies as well were trying to do NFTs, and apparently in the earnings call, I think yesterday, Ubisoft did not even bring up the NFT things. Right, they were pushing this really hard, and now they're not even mentioning it. Like that. That's and it makes me so depressed because I'm glad it got rejected. Like people just rejected how stupid NFTs were, but the problem is with rich companies, they will jump on any trend to try and maximize profit. So if you want to put really anti-consumer practices in and push NFTs in video games, they will try and do that. Even though they don't understand really what they are, even though they don't understand that most of their audience fucking hates this, they will still do it. And I'm happy it's been rejected, but it just shows like with gaming's a good example of capitalist greed in that gaming like I've said this multiple times, gaming was better 10 years ago. Like multiplayer games were better 10 years ago, and to some degree single player games, because the problem now is no, it's not a new problem, games being cut up and sold back to you, although I'd say this is not as much of a problem as it was maybe like 5 years ago. But the problem with multiplayer games now, I don't know if any of you guys play Call of Duty, it's just such a fucking mess. Like it's literally all designed for you to spend as much money as possible, despite the fact you've already paid 70 quid for the game. 70 quid. If we got Americans watching, that means £70, if you don't know that. And I'm just playing these games, and I'm seeing people run around in like Attack on Titan outfits in a World War II game, and like playing as Snoop Dogg and shit like that. And it's like, who fucking wants this? Like, Fortnite has been such a disaster for video games, and it's like with the new Battlefield as well. Why am I playing two different factions? Like, for people who don't know, now in Call of Duty and Battlefield, there is no distinguishable aesthetics between the factions. You all play as the same characters, so it's like Overwatch. You all play as the same characters, but you're fighting for the US and Russia in Battlefield, and you all look the same. And in COD, you're literally playing as American soldiers who look the same fighting each other, and it's really fucking confusing. It's like, why do this? It's so they can monetize the fucking skins. So like the thing with NFTs, I'm glad it got rejected from gaming, but at the same time, gaming's fucked anyway because, well, multiplayer gaming, because you just have so much crap like this, and it's just annoying because so many. I don't know about you, like so many of my favorite franchises have just been destroyed by greed because it's never enough. Like Pro Evolution Soccer is something from Konami I've always played, and they just destroyed it. Like the newest one is just is just like a absolute cash grab. Runs like shit, looks like shit. And it was designed to play on every fucking system, including mobile. So the graphics look like garbage as well. And they've just destroyed that game. And I've loved that series for like 10 years, and now I'm not gonna buy it anymore. I'm not gonna play it. Battlefield's another one. Like, love Battlefield 1, probably one of my favorite games of all time. Bad Company 2, Battlefield 3, and then with Battlefield 2042, they just ruined the whole franchise. Like, in one game, they ruined the whole franchise because of greed and because they want to copy Call of Duty, which is like this absolute insane cash cow. And it's like there's two game franchises that made loads of money as well. Like, like Pro Evolution can afford like getting Ronaldo on its cover. Like, it can afford exclusive deals with like big football clubs, but that wasn't enough for them. And same with Battlefield. It's like Battlefield always sold really well. It's like never going to hit the Call of Duty numbers, but it always sold a lot. But at the same time, Battlefield is made and owned by the same company who owns every fucking sports game. They don't even need to milk this franchise as much as they milk FIFA, Madden, and all this shit, but they did it. And then what's the end result? Some god awful new video game that runs like crap. No one players like, has an average player base which is smaller than like both previous Battlefields. And it's like I made a video called "Capitalism Ruining Gaming," and people like had a bit of a pushback against it. Not like obviously leftist people, but they're like, well, without capitalism, you wouldn't have video games. And the point of the video was I was showing worker co-ops which make video games, and some of them, like Dead Cells, which is quite a famous one, been quite successful. And I was like, people make video games because they love them. It's not like another corporate job. Like, why the video game industry has so much exploitation is because probably like a lot of artistic industries like film and TV, because people really want to be there. Like, people really love this thing, but also because of their passion, they can be exploited and a lot easier because they actually care. They're not going to quit as easy. And also because it's such a competitive industry, if you get burnt out and leave, they can easily replace you with someone younger. And it's just the whole video game industry. Like, I've spoken to someone who worked on the remaster of Metal Gear Solid, or the remake of Metal Gear Solid 1, the Twin Snakes it's called. And he was saying it was a problem even when that game came out. Like, it's always been around. And it's just, in terms of art and stuff, like, I don't know how people don't understand that, yes, in terms of the capitalist system, these things, if we have to live in a capitalist system, video games that have like really big budgets like The Last of Us 2 or Horizon, you need a lot of capital to make that stuff, right? You can't do that with a team of passionate people doing a worker co-op because they need startup money, unless they get like a lot of startup money where it can become like a sustainable business. But a lot of oh, that's a nice porn bot in the chat. We haven't had one of them in a while. When I made the porn bot the moderator by accident. I actually fucking did that once. Hey, one sec, what was I talking about? Duping them. Yeah, you got to scam them as well. So what was I saying? Anyway, yeah, capitalism ruins gaming, and this crypto NFT shit in gaming was just another part of that, like, just cash grab. And it reminds me of the early 2010s, where every game was trying to be Call of Duty 4, and it's just like shamelessly chasing these trends, and it never worked. Like, can you guys tell me a game that was successful, like Overwatch, Call of Duty, and games that chased that market specifically and did either good or better? I can't think of one. Like, so many Call of Duty clones, so many Overwatch clones. Fortnite has ruined gaming multiplayer because every single company is trying to chase that stupid Fortnite success and that stupid like Ready Player One bullshit of let's just fucking stick everything in this game so people love it. And it's now like the Marvel has it as well. It's like with Doctor Strange, it's like put every character in ever, like all these references to get people to go and watch it, because everyone just wants to go and watch stuff for references now. It's like, I want reference the movie. That new Ghostbusters apparently was exactly the same. It's literally preying on your nostalgia. That's another thing, like nostalgia. And I'm actually happy I saw lately that apparently the new Top Gun is apparently amazing. Like it's being reviewed like crazily well, which is nice because you'd think that could be another movie. It's just like, oh yeah, nostalgia, nostalgia. Remember the volleyball scene. Remember Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins. Like, remember, I don't know, Take My Breath Away. Remember all those scenes. So I'm happy that's apparently a good movie. And but I feel like too many things now. It's like, look, the thing you used to love when you were a kid, now it's in this game or in this film, and don't you love it? And it's like, just make a fucking good movie or a fucking good game. Stop trying to reference everything. Um, Super Luigi, Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, and Nepal are monarchies. Um, I knew, I knew Luxembourg and Nepal were, but don't they have a? Doesn't Luxembourg have a parliament as well, or is it just a straight up monarchy? Yeah. So the thing of gaming is just like you don't need capitalism for gaming. Tetris was made by one fucking dude in the USSR. Like, yeah, he sold it when he moved to America, but he originally just made it and he gave it to his friends to play, and then they really liked it. Like that is in essence what art is, and that's why George Lucas said about the Soviet Union. He said, in the Soviet Union, you're more free to make what you want than you are in the US. And people are like, well, how could you say that? Like, the US is free, Soviet Union authoritarian. He said, well, the thing the Soviet Union, and I don't know if you guys have seen um, some clips of Soviet films. They're really, really impressive. George Lucas said, well, with Soviet films, what you do in them, you can't criticize the government, obviously, and there's some things you can't talk about. But he's like, other than that, you're pretty free to make what you want because it's not based on market like economics as much. Like you're not making a film to be the most successful in the Western world, and it's not completely driven by capital. It's driven by like government funded art. And the guy who actually made Tetris, actually was funded by the university he worked at, to do like computer science and stuff. So essentially, like government funded gaming. But that's the thing. Like that's just people don't realize if you lived in a more nationalized society, like socialist society, there still would be like art and stuff. It just wouldn't be completely driven by profit. And no one can tell me that the film industry is better today than it was in like the 1970s or something. And I'd say that because the stories you're getting told in, unless I mean I'm talking about like the main box office films, like let's say like the top 50 in the Western box office. The stories you're getting told aren't as diverse. The way they're shot just doesn't look as good. Like go for people who want to see films that like look so authentic. Go watch Martin Scorsese's Mean Streets. It's his film before Taxi Driver, and you watch that film, and obviously because it's like lower budget, more like guerrilla filmmaking, it's literally like filmed on the street in 1970s New York, and it just looks so fucking good. Like, obviously, I'm not talking about the camera quality. I'm talking about like the authenticness or authenticity of that world. And it's just like literally being transported back into 1970s New York, and it's like, what do we have now? And even with Martin Scorsese, it's like I watched The Irishman, and I'm watching some fucking CGI 1970s New York. You've literally made films. Sorry, my squeaky chair. You've literally made films, literally in 1970s New York, which look fucking amazing. So oh, you think about Mean Streets and Taxi Driver. All right, I'll talk about in the last stream as well. Like Once Upon a Time in America, the Jewish district in New York, like Night in 10, New York, like fucking amazing. Like hundreds and hundreds of extras, like riding horses, like shopping carts, shops and stuff. Like, just do not see that anymore. Even like the first Blade Runner, which is one of my favorite films. Like some of those scenes in the markets and stuff, just so hard to direct that, and it pays. I saw Blade Runner in the cinema first time last year, It just looks so fucking good. Like that film's 40 years old this year. And it's like Marvel movies are gonna age like those 1990. I don't know if you guys have seen like bad 1990s CGI. Like I think the best example for me is Escape from LA. You know the Kurt Russell movie Escape from New York, like part of the inspiration for Metal Gear Solid. Escape from LA is the sequel in the 90s. Kurt Russell, Steve Buscemi, and someone else. And the CGI in that film is so terrible. It probably looked okay back in the day, but I think Marvel movies are gonna age like absolute crap. Like I think we're gonna look at Marvel movies like how I look at Escape from LA, because it just looks like god awful. And even like I was watching that Doctor Strange trailer, and someone pointed out there's the same guy running around the shot like 5 times, hoping people wouldn't notice. I loved Escape from LA. There's some funny fucking lines in it. Like, that's why I like those movies. The cheesy dialogue is good. The first Iron Man, 2008. I watched it a couple years ago and I thought it looked good. So I'm gonna read some comments. Yeah, the only good thing about like the globalized film industry and like Netflix is getting more international films seen, which I think is really good. Yeah, thanks, Red Leader. Yeah, I'm feeling better. I tested negative for COVID on Tuesday. I felt pretty shit for like 5 or 6 days, but yeah, feeling fine. Went for a big walk on Tuesday. Went for a run today just to test out my lungs, see if there was any damage. And yeah, I felt fine. Thanks for asking. Anime Tanky, if you want to have a look at that, the old BBC political news host guy, Andrew Neil, confronted him about it on that infamous BBC meltdown Ben Shapiro did. And he basically backtracks only to clarify he meant Palestinians and not Arabs. Like somehow, somehow that makes it better. All right, so can we got more people in here? Sorry if you've been here since the start. So basically, this account called Standing Against Anti-Semitism, which only has 2,000 followers and follows 4,000, so it's not significant. But I'm pretty sure it's run by a Republican, right? So Ben Shapiro basically said Rashida Tlaib, Palestinian American, is an anti-Semite for criticizing Israel for shooting yet another journalist in the head, very well-loved journalist, during one of their raids. Now, see if you can hear this.
When will the world and those who stand by apartheid Israel...
It's Anna Kasparian reading Rashida's tweets and Ben Shapiro's.
When will the world and those who stand by apartheid Israel that continues to murder, torture, and commit war crimes finally say enough? Shireen Abu Akleh was murdered by a government that receives unconditional funding by our country with zero accountability. There is nothing inaccurate about that tweet. There is nothing hateful about that tweet. That tweet shows compassion for someone who was gunned down as she was doing her job as a journalist. That tweet calls into question US foreign policy toward Israel, which enables Israel to carry out the occupation that it's currently carrying out of the Palestinian people. But Ben Shapiro, who just absolutely despises the left because he thinks they go around calling all these good-natured, innocent people racist when they're not racist, responded to Rashida Tlaib with this comment: anti-Semite, anti-Semites again. So John, maybe I'm missing it, okay? Right wing loves to think or loves to tell me how dumb I am. So maybe I missed it, John. What exactly in her statement was anti-Semitic?
So this fucking account, you guys will like this. Random ass account. Apparently, Anna is also anti-Semitic for this. Anna Kasparian did a TYT segment yesterday about Ben Shapiro, blah, blah, blah. Under the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, referring to Israel as an apartheid state is anti-Semitism. No, it's fucking not. The accusation that Israel is an apartheid state isn't just false. It has no resemblance to apartheid South Africa. Its claim is intended to delegitimize and isolate the world's only Jewish state. Then promoting David Balliol's book. This is the guy who sung "Football's Coming Home." And also has done loads of blackface and done loads of racist shit. But like, yeah, let's listen to him. Keith Starmer, the leader of the Labour Party, does. So then they refer to this. The Equality and Human Rights Commission is basically a Tory front in the UK that refuses to investigate Tory Islamophobia, despite 50% of the Tory party saying they wouldn't vote for a Muslim. Loads of other shit, and also they've personally attacked transgender people as well, right? So Jeremy Corbyn didn't take it too seriously because it was saying that the Labour Party was institutionally anti-Semitic, and Jeremy Corbyn said it was massively overblown, which he was right, weaponized anti-Semitism. But then for this tweet here, which is fucking laughable, and that I've been replying to them a lot today. I've been trying to get them to say how this is wrong, how Israel is not like South Africa, right? So they're saying it isn't just demonstrably false, it has no resemblance to South Africa. And then I read some of you this earlier, but then let's see what Desmond Tutu had to say about the comparisons between Israel and apartheid South Africa. I know firsthand that Israel has created an apartheid reality within its borders and through its occupation. The parallels to my own beloved South Africa are painfully stark indeed. And then he said, nearly two decades ago, he told a conference in Boston, I've been deeply distressed in my visit to the Holy Land. It reminded me so much of what happened to us black people in South Africa. And then apparently they've been fighting with a lot of people on Twitter today. Don't have much time to fight with me though. I wonder why. And then they replied to someone else. So this guy called Andrew asking, ask the people who lived under apartheid if Israel fits the bill. And they say, several people who've lived under apartheid in South Africa have said Israel is not an apartheid state. So have several Arabs living in it, because we all know there's no such thing as an Arab who lives in Israel who might align with the ruling Israeli class. There's a significant number of Israeli Arabs. There are Israeli Arabs who often fight in the IDF. There are Israeli Arab businessmen who have connections to the ruling regime. If several Arabs, what's that like? Does several mean like 4? Is it 4 plus? Say that Israel is an apartheid state. Oh, we got to believe them then. If several people who lived in South Africa, are you asking the fucking Afrikaans now or something? And then I just replied to them, which I didn't reply again. What about this dude? And then I quote tweet myself, and then I just replied a bit later. Don't leave me on read, bro. What's your point about black South Africans not thinking Israel is an apartheid state? And that's the thing, right? Like, in Western countries, we like to like lionize Nelson Mandela. Like, basically, I made a whole video on this like 3 years ago or something. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, apolitical. They basically are famous because they said racism is bad. Not that Nelson Mandela was a communist, who with his civil disobedience and sometimes insurgency against the apartheid state, helped overthrow them, along with the Cuban War against South Africa as well, among other things. And then Nelson Mandela, Desmond Tutu, most of the presidents of South Africa since have all said Israel is an apartheid state. And some of them, like Desmond Tutu, have even said Israel is worse than apartheid South Africa. He's actually said that to Palestinian people. So the belief that calling Israel apartheid is anti-Semitic is garbage. The belief that comparing it to South Africa is anti-Semitic is insane. If people who overthrew an apartheid government and they lived under it, older people as well, not people who were like born in like 1980 or something, people who were like 90 something and they passed away, Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu, when they say Israel is like this, then that's good enough for me. Like, what more evidence do I need? People who lived under a notorious more modern day apartheid system are saying, well, you also have it just like we had it. So I believe them as well. And I'm sure there are black Americans who grew up in apartheid Jim Crow who would probably say the exact same thing as well. anyway, it's just the thing with the Israel stuff, to me it's so simple. It's like um Canada, South Africa, Australia, in the past Rhodesia, South Africa, New Zealand, Northern Ireland, they're all evidence of like settler colonialism where settlers, well, I'd say England is like a combination of settler colonialism. In America and Israel, it's settler colonialism because you have foreign people coming to a country, creating their settlements and violently killing and genociding people who live there, right? And then in the case of America, um, and Israel specifically, then they create their own nation state, these settlers. In Northern Ireland, it's a bit different, where you do have settler colonialism, but this is quickly backed by the British state, and then quickly in like the 1600s, Ireland is completely taken over by the English. So it's a bit of more of a mixture of just like traditional colonialism and like settler colonialism, where America and Israel are very similar in that it literally is driven by the settlers. And then you have like obviously like kind of like hybrid examples, because like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, like obviously a lot of those people are backed by the British state as well. But still share elements of the Israeli stuff with the displacement, land theft, apartheid systems, and stuff like that. It's like two-tier legal system they have in these countries. And for me, the Jewish part has nothing to do with anything. Like, I don't understand. Like, the only thing it serves as for me is for people, dishonest actors, to weaponize anti-Semitism to shut down criticism. Because in my mind, it doesn't matter that Manifest Destiny was done by Christians. It doesn't matter that Zionism. I mean, obviously, it's part of that ideology, but it doesn't matter that Zionism is Jewish. It doesn't matter that Ottoman colonialism back in the day was driven by whatever. It doesn't matter to me what religion it is. It's all the same thing, right? It's like saying that colonialism and apartheid is bad is like saying invasion and killing civilians is bad. It doesn't matter what the framing is. Like, if you're going to tell me, well, Israel should do this because it's like Jewish self-determination, that's like something they like to say a lot, or like the only Jewish state, and you hate it because you're an anti-Semite. Not that I'm someone who hates colonialism and apartheid, therefore I hate this. Doesn't matter if it's Afrikaans doing it, doesn't matter if it's Rhodesians doing it, doesn't matter if it's Americans doing it, doesn't matter if Israelis are doing it. It's all the fucking same thing. So we don't even have to even talk about the religious aspect or the ethnic aspect. It matters to a degree when we're talking about like solutions. It doesn't matter when you're opposing something, right? Like, did people well, I guess because I know fucking a lot of Afrikaner nationalists are fucking butthurt little babies anyway, claiming the white farmer shit they made up a couple of years ago. But it's like, can you imagine people back in the day being like, if you were against Afrikaner apartheid, it's like, well, you're just racist against Afrikaans. You must be like, you must just hate them if you're against their colonial system. But then that's why they weaponize this so much. Like, it's so dishonest now as well. It's not even like and the thing is as well, why it's even worse today than it was back in the day is Israel is not under threat. Like, this argument makes more sense when Arab neighboring countries are saying actual anti-Semitic things and having conflicts with Israel, right? And that makes more sense to be like, well, this is why they say it's anti-Semitism, because there is a lot of anti-Semitic rhetoric being thrown at this, new state in the 1960s and 70s. But then today, Israel is massively backed by the West, in no risked, position of risk at all. No country in the region can challenge them, even if they join together. Syria, Iran are the only two countries that would challenge them, could not beat them in a war. It has an absolutely massive army. If Israel mobilizes all its manpower, I think it could have like 3 million fucking soldiers or something, and it's a tiny country because obviously everyone serves in the IDF, and you're in the reserves until you can be called up until you're like 52 or something. Anyway, but now it's not under threat. So when they start crying that calling or me calling out them for apartheid apparently means I hate Jewish people, it rings so hollow, because it's like, you're not under threat from anyone. You can't just weaponize this against people calling you out on your ship. You aren't under threat from Egypt or Jordan or Syria anymore. Like, these countries are basically all your pals now. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, you're friends with all these countries. And you're going to pretend to me like you're at risk and I'm trying to isolate the only Jewish state. Yeah, isolate, you're one of the fucking biggest world powers. Like, you're a leader in like technology, weapons, military. You have nuclear weapons. Most countries in the region cannot compete with you on any level, and you're still acting like you're a victim while you brutalize a powerless people and try and, essentially trying to make them extinct. Let's read some comments. Yeah, but Rurutu, we fund this. This is the problem. Which is why I always get funny about people saying, well, you must focus on Israel because you hate Jewish people, right? You must focus on Israel because of that. Not that Britain, the country I live in, America, the country most of you guys live in, funds this. Not only does it funds this, it's complicit. Not only that, whenever the UN, especially America, the main country do this, whenever the UN backs sanctions against Israel, back some sort of measures against them, the US always vetoes it. Always. And sometimes it's literally the only two countries against everyone else. Even the UK sometimes, like, either doesn't vote or has voted for this. The US always backs Israel, no matter what. It literally, no matter anything Israel does, it will never be enough for the US to turn on them. And that's how they get away with this stuff. And this is how they. And the thing is, this mentality. So if you read about like early Israel, there's a mentality, of course, because of what happened to them under the Nazis, of never again. Like, we will never be oppressed by anyone again. And what this manifests in, this attitude, and of course it's understandable because of how Jewish people have been treated throughout history, but it manifests in the way they fight wars. Is they are extremely over the top and brutal. Like, if you read about the 6 Day Wars, they would bomb buses of refugees. They even attacked an American ship and killed like 100 people, which anti-Semites love talking about because they think like Israelis have betrayed America. Is it an NSA ship they attacked, and they said afterwards they didn't know, they thought it was Egyptian or something. And then in other wars, it's just like the scale of their they always go way too far. Is the thing I'd say. Like, if you read about the 6 Day War, it's quite a brutal conflict. Like, kind of like what we're seeing with Russia and Ukraine, and there's like war crimes on both sides. You can't deny that. But then the problem with what happens afterwards is when Israel have the upper hand and are winning, they take it too far. Like, they exact revenge on Palestinian civilians. They kill refugees, bomb refugees, kill aid workers. Like, they literally bombed British Red Cross refugee camps and stuff. This is in 1967, and then you see this a lot more, like Gaza bombing the AP building, just flattening these homes. They always take it way too far because it's a mentality of never again. But then that's what I'm saying. There must come a point where the never again mentality has to kind of take a back seat because it's not going to happen again to Israelis. You're too powerful. It's not going to happen again. But why do you still act like it's the 1950s and you're creating your like safe homeland? Like, why do you still act like that? And it's just this absolute brainwashing. And I think I've read some of the stuff. A lot of people in Israel would still believe this. They still think this never again thing. They still have to act like this. They still have to make Israel safe for them, because if they don't act this way, if they don't treat the Palestinians like this, if they don't treat like all Palestinians like the Hamas supporters, well, what if Hamas get the upper hand? Hamas say they want to completely get rid of the Israeli state. A lot of Hamas stuff is insanely anti-Semitic. So if they let this group rise a bit more, then the whole, not just the Israeli state as like a apparatus, but the whole of the Israeli people will be under threat of being killed, basically. But like I'm saying, like, there has to be a time, even if you can justify your brutality in the past. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying if you can justify that in your head of we had to act this way because we were fighting all these countries at the same time, like Egypt, Jordan, Syria, and others. But now it's like you have the upper hand. Most of these countries are your allies. Mainly, not so much the people, but the governments, the Egyptian government, Saudi government, Jordan to a lesser extent as well. It's like all these people are your allies now, and you're more powerful than them. So why do you still like? It's like the problem is, if Israel was more isolated and like it was back in the 60s, and not in bed with the United States and the UK and other countries like that, you would think that, all right, maybe for its own image, it would need to stop doing these things. Because if the world actually functioned as a UN, like in theory, is meant to function, Israel would be facing the same types of sanctions Russia is, right? And if that threat of Israel facing those sanctions could happen, they would stop doing this, or they'd stop doing a lot of this explicit killing. And the reason they don't give a shit is because the US will never vote for these sanctions. The US will never lead sanctions against them. Therefore, it's pretty meaningless. And China, and I was reading today, which is a bit disappointing. A lot of Chinese, the communist countries are actually pretty shit on Israel Palestine. I was reading about Vietnam. Vietnam has quite strong business ties with Israel. Vietnam wants a two-state solution, but it doesn't really talk about Palestine at all, which is disappointing. China surprisingly has quite strong business ties with Israel as well. I think they're building Israeli public transport and stuff. I haven't read too much about Cuba and what their stance on. I know Fidel Castro was obviously big on Palestine, as was Nelson Mandela, but most countries these days don't really give a shit like about opposing Israel, and that even goes for Arab Gulf states as well. So, the problem is like in a functioning world, if we're taking Russia, and that's why people get so frustrated about the Russia stuff. It's like, okay, if we're gonna accept, like, even though I think sanctions are pretty much bullshit, like in terms of the way they're targeting Russian people, it's managed to punish Russian civilians rather than punish the ruling class. But if we live in this world, we accept, like, okay, Russia and the Russian people deserve this, and the problem is the Israeli population is more complicit in what they do than the Russian population, in my opinion. Israel is a democracy for a lot of people living in Israel. They can vote out the current government. If they really wanted to, they could stop joining the IDF, right? Like, where is this movement in Israel? Why is it not bigger? Why do more people not refuse to join the IDF? Why is it so small? Why don't we have, like, most young people not joining? And that's because the brainwashing is so strong. Because if Israeli people really wanted this treatment to end, and even liberal Zionists, they still, like, they can't shake this belief in the Israeli state and stuff. So even people who it's like progressive except from Israel, progressive except there's something in the Jewish community I've read about. It's like progressive Jews who are progressive in everything apart from Israel, where they are like really right wing, and it's like if people blame Russia, people blame every Russian civilian. You're complicit in Putin. You're complicit in the war. You wanted this war, so you deserve all this financial hardship. You deserve to have your lives ruined by Western sanctions, right? So if we accept that logic, then Israeli people are far more complicit in what their government does because they can vote them out and they can stop joining the IDF. It's a national service, but where is this movement? If you don't want to be complicit, where's this protest movement? And I don't see it. Like, it doesn't really exist. Yeah, there are plenty of people who don't join the IDF. It's not a big thing. Most people who grow up in Israel will join the IDF. And I don't have anything against necessarily, like, I wouldn't hold it against someone forever to go serve their time in the IDF and maybe, think about it later and be like, yeah, I regret that, because you grow up in that society. I bet if you don't join the IDF, you'll be massively shunned. I'm not sure about like job prospects in Israel if you don't join the IDF, do your national service. So yeah, like that's a problem. And obviously people say in the comments now, like, yeah, the US voted for Bush again. Like, Bush did Iraq with 70% support of that war, and then they voted him again. So if the world is meant to work as it's supposed to, then the US should have suffered for that. Like, the US population, like, you're complicit, US. Like, you're blaming the Russians living in a dictatorship, basically have no say in their own government. Well, you have a massive say, and you chose to reward Bush for killing hundreds of thousands of people and go on to kill about 1 million people in the Middle East. Well, you rewarded him. So Americans, you deserve to starve. You deserve to have your bank accounts destroyed by inflation, by worldwide sanctions. You deserve that as well. Israel, you deserve that. And that's the thing. I don't want sanctions on anyone, because at the end of the day, it always hurts the poorest people. I want targeted sanctions, like in South Africa, for countries like Israel, to make them rethink what they're doing. But if any countries deserve sanctions, if Russia's one of them for their brutal war in Ukraine, Israel's another, Saudi Arabia is another, and the US is another. And if we're going back in time as well, Britain would be one, France should be one as well, and that's just like the reality of what the world should be if we're acting on a level playing field. But the US dominates the financial institution. We all live in a US dominated economic system. IMF and World Bank were literally created by the US in 1944 to control the global capitalist economy and promote anti-communism. So the US controls the world's purse strings, as it were, because it dominates these global financial institutions, which privatize economies. And we talk about debt traps. If you talk about Chinese debt traps, which are a myth, read up about US African debt traps in the 1970s and 80s. You might be surprised that, well, you won't be surprised, the US has kept Africa poor just to exploit its natural resources, just like the Europeans do. Yeah, Israel is also racist to black Jews as well, like Ethiopian Jews, and Palestinian Jews as well, which is ironic as well. You're founding, so-called Jewish state meant to be for everyone, apart from when the Ethiopians come and you start forced sterilizing some of their women, which is nice. Well, yeah, I've said this. People might dispute. I've said Israel's not only an apartheid state based on Jewish versus Palestinian. It's also a white supremacist state as well, which is really ironic since Jewish people. Well, the thing is, Jewish people have historically always been victims of white supremacy, right? But now I think it's more this American. Something that's really interesting to me about white supremacy is European white supremacy is really different from American white supremacy because of America being a melting pot of different like white skinned people. Eventually, we've got to this point where it doesn't really matter what your background is. Like Polish people, Czechs, Irish, Italians, English, Scottish. In America now, mostly, unless you're like some old school Anglo-Saxon type racist, that's a white person, right? Russian, Slavs, and anyone with white skin in America, and Jewish people as well. Jewish people are often considered white people as well in America by most people. Where in the UK, you still have such xenophobia against like Eastern Europeans, for example, or sometimes Mediterranean types. Where in America, you don't really have that distinction as much. It's now like you're all white Americans, and that's it. Like, doesn't matter if you came from Eastern Europe. Doesn't matter if your granddad came from Eastern Europe or Germany or England or anywhere like that. You're now white American. Where in the UK, it's like you're Polish people are not the same as Romanian people. You're not the same as us English, for example. That's something that's in the UK. But with this UK version of white supremacy, where it's like all the white groups become white, like it's not a distinction. Where in Europe it's a distinction, and now I think in Israel has a lot of resemblance to that, where it's like, you are all like Jewish people, and it's meant to be this Jewish state, but now it often resembles America, where white Jewish people who came from Eastern Europe and Western Europe, you're at the top of this hierarchy, and obviously white Jewish people, the main founders of Israel, despite not being the ones who were fighting for Israel to start with, because that was the Palestinian Jews, they obviously created this system, and Israel is a racist system as well, racist to Ethiopian Jews, Palestinian Jews, which people mentioned in the chat, and it resembles a lot to me American white supremacy in this regard, despite the fact that, like I said, it's quite ironic because Jews have always been the victims of white supremacy throughout history, but with America being, it's weird for America inspiring the Nazis, it also has this version of white supremacy, which is a bit unique to Europe in that American white supremacy since about like 1950s and 60s is not really about Anglo-Saxonism, whereas European white supremacy still is about Anglo-Saxonism, right? It's Northern Europeans and Western Europeans at the top of this white supremacist hierarchy. That's how they view themselves. Where, you know, I think Matt Gaetz was saying about like creating the Anglo-Saxon League, with like some Republicans who had like German and English heritage, right? And that's like really old school racist, isn't it? Like Anglo-Saxon means you're not like tainted by Mediterranean Europe or Eastern Europe and stuff like that. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. The difference in like the white supremacist structure in America and the US. Obviously, you do have some white supremacist groups in America who do consider themselves like Anglo-Saxons or Scandinavians, and they're like the best. But by and large, most racists in America who are white, it doesn't really matter, does it? Like, I can't imagine there's too many groups that are like, well, your name is Polish, despite you being a white American, so we don't want you. I doubt that really happens. Or your name is Irish, so we don't want you. Or German, so we don't want you. Like, well, German, it has to be English or Scottish or some shit like that. I doubt that really happens. Well, it's even like Hassan, isn't it? Like Hassan's Turkish, but he's white, and he's white passing. So no one's gonna say no one in America really is gonna tell Hassan he's not a white person. I think you might get in Europe people telling him he's not a white person though. I think it would be more. I think when I get racist comments about me not being a white person, I think it mainly comes from European people and not American people. You have to like Nick Fuentes, for example, like one of the leaders of like the alt right in America. Fuentes, right? No European white supremacist is accepting some guy called Fuentes because if you have a Hispanic name, they're not going to consider you white. And I think that was something we were talking about when I was talking about something to do with Ukraine. I think I was talking to this guy was tweeting me, this American professor, and he's saying it's just interesting the distinction between American white supremacy and English white supremacy. What is like race is a social construct. What is white is bullshit because it's just made up. Because over different periods of time, what was white one year or one decade is not white for another decade. For example, like you know, in the past in America, Irish people not considered white, Italians not considered white, Spanish people, Greeks not considered white, and that's what I'm talking about. America also used to have this Anglo-Saxon white supremacy, but as time went on and people assimilated, you know, there's no Irish discrimination in America, right? I would say there is pretty much close to zero discrimination of Irish families in America. I'm not talking about like maybe people with an Irish accent. Possibly there's some. I'd say people from an Irish background are not discriminated in America. People from Italian backgrounds, despite what they say, I would say largely are not discriminated against either. And people, and this is different from the past, right? And then people from Donald Trump, German, Slavic backgrounds, I'd say like if you're one or two generations removed and you just have the name and you have an American accent and you've got white skin, I don't think anyone's gonna say you're not one. Whereas the Anglo stuff, I think is a bit more common in like European fascist stuff, like fascist movements. What was I gonna say? But yeah, so like for me being white depends on who you're asking. Like there's a broad acceptance because although race is a social construct, we kind of have to act like race is real now. Like race is not real, but we kind of have to act like it is. Nearly most people would always consider me white, but then I get a lot of racism on YouTube saying like, you're a Chechen, you're like, I don't know what people said to me. No way you're white. You've got to be something. You've got to be Spanish or Greek or something. Like, how do you have like black hair and you think you're like an Anglo or something like that? I get that shit a lot. But yeah, I mainly think it's from European racists. Italian Americans are the most oppressed people here, Gav. You just don't understand. Hey, Casey. Yeah, I mean, if we Irish and Italian Americans experience on discrimination, we might not be such fucking cops. Yeah. Also, might not vote for Republicans all the time, especially Irish Americans. Loner Boxer called a racist for critiquing Hassan. Chechen, yeah, you know, like Chechens are like white Muslims, aren't they? Well, it's Demon Slayer. It's also interesting because you say that they learn you're a Muslim, but then they probably wouldn't consider you a Muslim either. Like in their head, like Muslim is. That's why people always say like, "Oh, you can't be racist to a Muslim." I'm not racist because I hate Muslims or I hate Islam or some shit like that. And it's like, you know, you can hate Islam without being racist, but a lot of these people hate Muslims or hate like the people who follow the religion of Islam, not because they follow the religion of Islam. It's mostly because in their head they have a stereotype and a stereotypical image, which of course, like a lot of Muslims are Arab, but you're an Arab or you're non-white. Um, and then if you're like, well, what about Bosnians or Chechens or white Turks or white Iranians and stuff? It's like that's not the image they have in their head. When they say Muslim, it doesn't mean white person. It essentially just means like brown person. Anime, they consider themselves white for sure, but a lot of like I haven't read about this. I would not be surprised if Hitler didn't consider Franco white. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't consider Mussolini white either. I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't consider them Aryan. Yeah, like Khabib. No, Khabib's from like Dagestan. I think that's different, but I think it's similar. Jude, aren't Russians technically Asian? Well, there's a European part of Russia, like Moscow and stuff. Um, yeah, the thing is, Russians all being Asian is basically like a racist thing from the Nazis. Yeah, there's loads of Asian people in Russia. It's absolutely massive landmass. Soviet Union was absolutely huge. Loads of like technically Asian people. But the Russians all being like Mongols or Huns. Like you see a lot of this like rhetoric at the moment, like this racism against Russian people. Essentially, a lot of people saying, "Oh well, Russians aren't European. Russians are like the Mongol hordes. They just love to run into battle with no weapons, like overwhelming numbers, like they're cockroaches and shit like that." It's actually like basically inspired by Nazi propaganda. You see that film like Enemy at the Gates when the Russians all like run into battle with no weapons, like it's that type of shit. It's basically because the Nazis who got let off after the war wrote the history of the Eastern Front, and what they wrote about a lot of the time was racially motivated because, of course, for Nazi Germany, the war against Russia was a race war, and part of that race war was demonizing Russians as either like Judeo Bolsheviks or Mongol hordes, essentially. Yeah, Manish, I'll probably be up for a lot longer, to be honest. Yeah, most Russians live in the European side. Yeah. Recommendations for war movies. Dunkirk is good, obviously. 1917 is good. The Thin Red Line is probably my favourite one by Terrence Malick. I think a lot of Italian Americans like JFK because of the Catholicism. um, Paths of Glory, yeah, Stanley Kubrick. Apocalypse Now, Yeah, I like it. We did it. We studied it at uni. I like it enough. The director's cut is a bit of a slog. I'd say like 3 hours 15 minutes. Yeah, Band of Brothers and Pacific, a good series as well. What's my favorite slur for Italian Americans? I mean, not that I'd say them, but I don't think I have a favorite. I mean, I can only think of two. Yeah, Battle of Algiers is a good one as well. That we did that at film studies at university, not university, in my fucking school actually. Yeah, I read we did Tim O'Brien because I did the Vietnam War for like 3/4 of my final year at uni. So yeah, I know in America most of you have to read Tim O'Brien in high school anyway. But we had to read him a lot more in university, and obviously like why would we be reading Tim O'Brien at school? Like we don't even learn about the Vietnam War really, a tiny bit. But yeah, we read a lot of Tim O'Brien. I like his little. It's not even a book. I think it's called "To Tell a War Story" or some shit like that. And it's only a couple pages. And it's interesting because he describes a scene in the Vietnam War, and he basically says what I said wasn't true. Like that didn't happen, but it basically did happen. Like it's an interesting perspective on war. He's basically saying, um, sorry, go. He was basically saying in the book, like I described a scene based on my own experiences, which is fake, but that would have happened somewhere. So is it actually true, or something? Yeah, Jarhead's a good one. Yeah, I got the bots down. Yeah, KKK hate Catholics, though, don't they? That's the problem. So KKK is it's like this Anglo-Saxon / Scottish Protestant racism. So that's why they fucking hate everyone apart from like Protestant Anglos, basically. I got that bot quick. Yeah, I just got my chat up on my third screen. Yeah, they don't like Catholics. Yeah, I'd still say Thin Red Line's my favorite. I'm trying to think of any others I've watched. I mean, We Were Soldiers, I'll give credit to that Mel Gibson one for being one of the few Vietnam War movies that actually at least tries to give a bit of the Vietnamese perspective and actually shows some South Vietnamese soldiers. One of the more brutal ones is what's that Michael J. Fox Vietnam one? Casualties of War with Sean Penn. That's a fucking awful one. Like in terms of it's a good movie, but it's pretty brutal. I'm trying to read some comments. Still, the porn bot is less of a scam than a crypto. Yeah, for sure. What was I talking about? Yeah, so for tomorrow's video, I'm trying to think of an idea. I want to do something about conservative comedy and why it's so fucking bad. And I wanted to compare it. So basically, I made a video about George Carlin and why people love George Carlin, like conservatives thinking he'd be on their side, which is so ridiculous if you watch only like 5 minutes of him talking about how stupid right wing Christians are. Um, but then the problem is, I don't really want to do this tonight. I've got to fucking watch a bunch of these really bad comedy sets, and I really, really don't want to watch them. Like, I don't want to watch Dave Rubin bombing a comedy set. There must be other people as well who love George Carlin. Like Joe Rogan is another one. I know he loves George Carlin, and I know he's awful at stand up as well. But there's something about stand-up comedy I hate anyway, and then something even more. I can't bring myself to watch stand-up comedy of people bombing really bad. I haven't seen that, but I've seen just so many actors obviously doing the crypto grift. Greg Gutfield, yeah, he's bad. I guess actually that's not a bad shout. Actually, he's terrible, man. Terrible. Oh god, I'm actually cringing thinking about watching it. Yeah, Steven Crowder is also terrible. What I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to play it on a really low volume, put the subtitles on, speed it up to two times speed. But then I'm gonna have to watch it again when I edit the video. Is the problem? Like I can get away with not watching it properly before, but I won't be able to get away with not watching it when I'm editing, which is the problem. There's never been a good conservative comedian. There's been Vince Vaughn and Tim Allen have made me laugh in films. Obviously, they're not stand-up comedians though, but they are conservative. Yeah, Ruru too. They seem to have so basically George Carlin has like numerous like sets where he talks about free speech, and I think in one of them he basically says every single racial slur, like every single one, and he says me saying that is not inherently offensive. It's basically the intent of the person saying it which makes it offensive. It's not me actually saying those words. Words don't have meaning inherently, and I think I covered this in my video. And I'm basically saying that that's bullshit because a lot of those words you can't get away from the history of how they were created and what they were used for if you just say them. Like the N word, for example, what does that word mean? It's not like you can just say it and remove the context of what that word means and what it's used for, especially as like was George Carlin like a white Catholic and stuff. So you can't say those words and say, well, it doesn't mean anything when I just say it because I'm not calling someone it and I'm not being like racist. And it's like that was one thing. So I think conservatives like him for that because it's like, oh, he loves free speech and shit like that. But then if you listen to his politics, he also absolutely like the, don't know if he hated capitalism specifically, but a lot of the stuff he said was pretty anti-capitalist, anti-religion, anti-republican, anti-conservative. Like, if the only thing you get from him is the free speech thing, I think I know he also said you shouldn't punch down on people as well in terms of comedy. So if the only thing you get from his the free speech thing, you just haven't really understood his message really. Pizza pasta. Well, the Metal Gear video has done okay in the end. I think it's on like nearly 10K. I might not do a video for now, but I might wait until I've got a bit more momentum because let's have a look. So the Metal Gear Revengeance video is on 9.3K, which is fine. Not the best. But the thing is, with YouTube at the moment, I was thinking about because I've been not depressed or anything, but just a bit like it's been slow growth the last couple of months. But then I was looking back at this time last year, and I was like, it was really slow back then. I think there's something about spring on YouTube, which is it's just really hard to grow your channel, where autumn and winter are really good. I guess maybe people were staying in more, watching more YouTube. Where at the moment it feels like such a grind. Like it feels like every sub is taken out of my soul, and it's annoying for me. So I want to get 100K subs this year. Obviously, I need another 1,000 to get 75K, which would be a nice little milestone. And then 25K left for the end of the year. So what's that? Another 6 months to get it. But I'm thinking I'm thinking I'll get most of them over Christmas. Like I'm literally, if I can go into Christmas with like 85k subs, like the Christmas period, I'll be happy because I know I can probably bang out another 15k. I also think it's just oversaturation of political content. Like I don't think there's a massive ceiling for it. So I understand why it's like slowing down compared to parts of last year. Yeah, Douglas Murray is just a massive fucking racist. I've made a couple of videos on him, but not properly. Sorry, I went. How long are we going for? 1 hour and a half. Okay. I think I'll leave it there. For tonight, just because I've spoke about everything I kind of want to speak about. All right. So yeah, I'll leave it there. So if you haven't watched my video from yesterday, it's a pretty fun one to make. Pretty weird making a video about a Gen Z like streamer Daily Wire put out who looks like fucking Ben Shapiro. And then Sidan Tatum, I never took a break. I haven't taken a break in like I've never taken a break that's over 5 days long in about 3 years. So I don't I don't know where you're getting that from. I've uploaded three times a week every week since probably December 2020. And that includes when I was in Spain. I uploaded every single week 3 times. So I never took a break. Yeah, I'm all about the grind set. I don't know why you think you probably just stopped watching my videos. I have never taken a break though, which is the bad thing about YouTube. You can never take a break. When I take a break, I've got to grind out like 3 videos before. So the last time I took a break was for a week over Christmas. Yeah, that's the last time I think. Yeah, it was a week over Christmas, and I made 3 videos before, so I had to fucking grind that out, which isn't fun. And I want to have another break this summer, but I'm gonna have to obviously upload videos or make videos the week before, so I can have the week off. Because yeah, when you're self-employed, you don't get a break, pretty much. Because if I don't do videos, then I don't make any money. But yeah, I think with the growth stuff, it just slows down really. This time last year, I think I had 30k. Yeah, I think I'm gonna check this quick. I think I had 30k, and so that means I've doubled it from last year. Let's have a quick look. This time last year, I had 15th of April last year, I hit 30k, and then I hit 40k on the 5th of August. Yeah, so it took me, what's that, 4 to 8. So it took me 4 months to get 10k from 30 to 40. And then, yeah, so I guess it's relatively the same. And I hit 20 in January. So yeah, I'd say I'm about double what I was last year, but it's just a slow period. I don't know why. I feel like when I'm watching leftist content anyway, the views have been down. I don't know if it's just this time of year. The only stressful thing is last year was a bit more fun because I was like seeing if I could do YouTube full time and make enough money. But now it's like, yeah, I know I can do that, but I want to get 100k and stuff. So like, it's a bit more stressful because I beat myself up if a video does bad. Where last year it was kind of a bit more about just trying things out and seeing if I did well. Now it's kind of like thinking more about, oh, like, you know, it's a bit more like taking into account the job side of it, which isn't as fun. So I haven't been enjoying it as much the last couple months. I really enjoyed it. November and December last year was that's probably my favorite period because it was like absolutely, because it must be this Christmas boost, but like insane views. Like, it was actually crazy. My views for videos getting like averaging like 30k a video. Someone's getting like 50, 70, 100 on a couple. But it's really fucking hard at the moment. It's just like I'm just waiting for that one. So basically, with YouTube, you have like waves. I always describe it as waves. So like, you have a video so basically, if you guys don't know this, when you have a really good video on YouTube that gets picked up by the algorithm, it helps your whole channel. So if my video yesterday was on course to get 100k views, my video tomorrow, no matter what it was about, would get a significant boost from what it would do normally. So last year I had it like the start of January, I had a massive boost and like crazy views for a couple of weeks, and then with my JonTron, I had a JonTron and a Grimes video that got 200 and 100k one after another. So that set me on for like a really nice boost again. And then over Christmas, I think like starting November, I had another big video which set me on like a really nice path. But that's what you need. You basically need to have a really good video, but then you can tell when it's slowing down. Like, I remember coming off after Christmas, I was like, my views are still really good, but I can feel it slowing down because the algorithm just doesn't promote you as much because you haven't had that like viral video again. So that's I'm much waiting for a viral video again. It is a bit frustrating though. I think I said this before, is I made those Russell Brand videos, which I think are a lot better than other Russell Brand videos. I put like so much work into them, like obviously watch so much of his content. So it's really frustrating to make two videos on that. And you know, I released them one day after another, and one got 45k, one's on 42k, which is absolutely fine. Like it's good enough. But then I see like Vosh just stream himself watching one Russell Brand video, and it gets like 200k views. I'm like, for fuck's sake! Like, obviously he has like 400k subscribers, so it's probably not that surprising, but it's a bit annoying because it's like, so there are people who want to watch this. It's just this hasn't been promoted enough, because I know people would like this video, and it's a bit annoying because that Bill Maher one I uploaded on Friday, it's doing really well, but it's like that only took me a day, like, and it's a good video and stuff, but it only took me a day. Where those Russell Brand ones took me all week, and it's just like annoying. It's annoying when you put loads of effort into something and it doesn't do that well, and then sometimes I did put effort into the Bill Maher one, but I watched like his content on the day I recorded it, then edited it, then made the thumbnail, then uploaded it. I did it all in one day. With the Russell Brand one, literally took me like 5 days for both of them. Make a Minecraft video. I think a Minecraft video would totally bomb on my channel. Not that I'd even know what to talk about of Minecraft. Yeah, TYT's views have been really down. That's one I've noticed. But I don't know if I don't know if this always happens though. It's also really bizarre to see like this is what makes me think that there's a bit of saturation. Vosh's views are still crazy, but he's been stuck at like 397k for like a couple months, basically getting no subscribers, which is mad. Like, it means he has a really engaged audience who will just like watch all his stuff. But then it's crazy. You'd think YouTube would promote his content more if he's getting such good views. Obviously, there's theories by news YouTubers who say that YouTube suppresses news content from channels that it doesn't consider like authoritative for sources or some shit like that. You got to be like a corporate outlet. Oh no, Sid and Tatum. I might have said break in the sense that I wasn't in the UK, but I never stopped uploading. I probably actually worked harder when I was in Spain, to be honest. But no, I might have said I had a break, but I kind of meant like a break from maybe England, because I never actually stopped uploading. I stopped streaming when I was in Spain. That's one thing I did do. Yeah, Carl Clancy's been stuck. He said this as well. Yeah, Russell Brand brown nosing. This channel has a really cool niche. Yeah, thanks, Johnny. I try and just basically talk about what I want, but I don't know what my niche is exactly. I guess it's internet culture and politics, maybe / video games sometimes. But I've been really struggling for ideas for videos. The hardest thing about my content is it's not news primarily, so I can't just like react to the news and make a video. I can do that. I've done it like really occasionally if it's like relevant. I always have to come up with topics, and it's very hard to grind out topics because I'm constantly thinking of new ideas for videos. Like that Viking one I uploaded a couple of weeks ago. I had that in my list for fucking ages, but it did. But what was nice is the Northman discourse happened, so I could just tie it to that. But I've got. Let me have a look. My list. If it feels good when I'm inspired and write down loads of good ideas, but I don't have any good ideas at the moment because I've ticked off most of them. Let's have a look. So I've got Susan Sarandon did that. Marvel Capitalism. I might not do that because no one really gave a shit on stream the other day. So sometimes I test things out on stream to see if people care. Conservative comedians might do that tomorrow. Metal Gear sexualization. I want to do it at some point, but I don't know if people will care, especially because my Metal Gear video didn't do so well the other day. Ricky Gervais being a knobhead. Maybe do that at some point. Why New Atheists Love Israel. Definitely do that at some point. But not tomorrow. Yoga community being fascists, I want to do at some point, and The Last of Us 2 and Israel Palestine is something I want to do. And that is all I got at the moment. Yeah, that's all I got at the moment. Not the best list. Like I'm trying to I just can't think of anything good at the moment. And the thing is, like, I do appreciate when people give me ideas, but I don't think, obviously, because most people don't, like, even most of you probably don't watch most of my videos. I think people won't understand because it's not like your ideas are bad. It's just when you build a channel on a certain type of content, you can't just start making videos on like random shit like that, because this is what happens with YouTube. Like, you need your audience to view the video first, and how they view your video will boost it in the algorithm for random people to watch it. So yesterday, my watch time was really good, click-through rate was really good, and the views are really good by extension, and the YouTube promoted it because my audience liked that video, right? So I know my audience like that type of content. Whereas if you upload something that could potentially do well but people don't like it, YouTube won't promote it based on your audience's reaction, like your subs reaction. The only way that will get views is people search directly for that topic. So when people give me ideas for content, even if it's a good idea, but it's like sometimes the most common suggestions I get is people asking me to cover like straight up politics, like news politics. I'm just like, well, it's not a bad idea, but I just like, I only make 3 videos a week. It'd just be a massive waste because that video would not do well, and I know by now it wouldn't do well, and it's based on like the audience I've cultivated, and that's the problem. Like, you've got to, for me, I'm lucky enough that I've made enough videos on different things. I haven't pigeonholed my stuff. I haven't pigeonholed myself completely. Like, it's not like I built my channel on like covering one type of political issue, because I do like video games, movies, and like nerd media stuff, and then like straight up politics sometimes as well. But if you pigeonhole your stuff, it's very hard to change. Like, if I built my channel just talking about politics and video games, it'd probably be very hard to talk about contemporary politics and other things because your audience wouldn't like it as much. Or you could talk about it, but the views wouldn't be as good. And when you're like obviously doing it full time as a job, you have to consider how each video is going to do and if it's worth your time. Obviously, for me personally, it's still like, I thought my Susan Sarandon video didn't do amazing, but I thought it would do really shit. So I was happy enough. I was like, oh, it's on like 13K in like a couple of days. I'm like, well, that's good enough for me. I thought it would do awful because I typed in Susan Sarandon after I made it onto YouTube, and all the highly viewed videos about her were from years ago, and they weren't even that well viewed either. So I was a bit like, oh shit, like maybe I shouldn't have done this. But oh, sorry, my chat. But yeah, it's just a bit stressful because just thinking up topics all the time is hard. Obviously, I get inspired by stuff I read, but then it's also like the demonetization stuff as well, because so much of the stuff I want to talk about is demonetized or will get demonetized. And then the problem with that is my Patreon isn't big enough for me to just rely on Patreon, so I have to actually consider like what topics I can talk about really. Yeah, so that stuff's annoying. And then all of that as well, how much do you want to grow your channel it factors in. So it's just everything is a bit stressful. It's like what will get me a bigger audience versus what can I monetize versus what will my own audience like. It's just a hard balancing act to do. And what I was saying in my video yesterday, I was like, to that Fem Shapiro, I was just saying like, like actually doing YouTube is a massive grind. Being AstroTurf for the Daily Wire isn't fucking hard, but your content still sucks as well. Main AO, thanks for $2. You should make a video about Tabascus. That is such a fucking throwback. I probably won't make a video about Tabascus, but that I remember that person being so massive in like 2010 or some shit. Katie, thanks so much for the $10 super chat. Really appreciate it. I know you literally just said ideas from the chat are not super helpful. I didn't say it like that. But if you ever need a source on the wellness industry fascist, I work near some. Yeah, for sure, Katie. I'll try, and if I ever want to do it, like if I'm certain I'm going to do it, I'll try and stream, and then you can. Actually, no, I got you on Twitter, so if I ever need information on it, I'll give you a message for sure, because there's stuff I know about it, but it's such a broad topic. There's so much fascist shit with like yoga and health communities and stuff. A John Stewart video. That's not a bad idea, to be honest. I'm just not aware of him as much. Like Bill Maher is someone I obviously don't watch, but I'm like very aware of him. Waifu. I think Douglas Murray is just a bit irrelevant on the internet, but he just appears on podcasts all the time. Elden Ring review. Vorus, in my Elden Ring hairstyle video, I actually gave a little review of the game right at the end, so go check that out if you want. Yeah, Herson Diaz, I actually did that video basically a couple months ago. I think it's called like Why Cancel Culture is a Myth or some shit. Like it was maybe like 3 months ago. But yeah, thanks for the suggestion, but I have done something very similar. Yeah, Florida vs Disney I already did. The OK Groomer video, maybe like 4 weeks ago now. So I've already done that one. But thanks for the suggestion as well. Main AO, I would laugh so hard if you wrote that script and then I made the video and it blew up. Your videos are great though. Thanks so much, Zapdos. Yeah, I mean, I like my videos and everything. It's just hard for the balancing act. How do they pronounce it? Did I pronounce it right? Herson Diaz. What do people say? Yeah, Katie, for sure. Especially if people have like Instagram accounts, that'd be super helpful. You're informative in your streams, but you're not super animated and bombastic like the streamers that upload streams. Yeah, the thing is, if I was actually a streamer, I'd probably work on being more energetic and plan my streams better. But the thing is, I just stream as like something on the side. Like it's not really relevant to my channel. I just do it because like, it's fun. Like I literally was saying at the start of the stream, I woke up from a nap like 40 minutes before I started streaming. So it's not like my priority. I like doing it and stuff, but yeah, if I was an actual streamer, I would try a bit harder. I'd also be more of like I'd get stuff to react to as well, like not just read shit out. I have done good streams before. Like it's a stream I'm proud of. A couple ones. I'm proud of the Endfuckers stream when I talked about his videos from Russia, and I liked the one where I talked about the Ukraine war, and then I clipped it and put it on my channel, and they both did really well. That was cool. Something I've considered doing in the future. The problem is just like I get really burnt out. I think 3 videos a week is just my limit. Especially yeah, because on like even today, I wasn't that busy, but I just ran out of time to do stuff I like, and then the because my friends often say like, why don't you just spread your work out? Why don't you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? I'm like, I would rather work all day Monday, Wednesday, Friday than work 5 days a week, because it's just nice. Like on Tuesday, I just went for like a huge walk and like um didn't have to worry about anything. And then today, all I did today was I went for a run, and then that's pretty much what like the only significant thing I did today. But it's just nice having the day to do nothing, and then tomorrow I'll just be busy all day, which sucks. But like I'd rather have days of not doing anything and not thinking about YouTube. Um, I definitely could be more efficient with my time, but the thing is, if I was a news YouTuber or a gaming YouTuber, I think my life would be a lot easier. But the problem is, because I actually have to think of interesting stuff, it's really something I don't want to do on days that I don't have to. And also, I have this problem, right? Like on the days I upload videos, basically everything I do that day is something I don't want to do. So my schedule yesterday was like wake up, watch some of those videos that Shapiro made, work out, watch more, record the video, eat dinner, edit all night, upload, go to bed. So like when I get up in the morning, it's essentially like, you guys probably feel this on some days as well. Like when you got work and then something else you don't want to do after work, it's like every single thing in my life today I kind of don't want to do. I'm not saying like I don't want to make the videos, but it's just the recording and planning is not so bad. It's the editing which is absolutely fucking boring and just takes ages, like 4 or 5 hours, maybe more. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh yeah, today's agenda: workout and work all night. Can't wait. So that's why I like just binging it on 3 days a week rather than spreading it to 5 days a week. Because yeah, if I had to do it every day, it would not be fun. But then the problem is just like I could put more effort into my videos if I spread it out a bit more, I think. But then at the moment it's just not what I want to do. But yeah, like I'm not being like woe is me. Being a YouTuber is hard. It's not actually hard in terms of the thing I hated most about working was having a boss. Like it's fun not to have a boss. It's fun to have your own schedule. The only problem is it's just a lot of stress in terms of like your income being tied to like content is kind of hard to, especially for me, because most of my money's from ad revenue and not from Patreon. So that kind of, and like how sustainable that is. Like, will I keep growing? Will my channel start dying at some point randomly? Like, oh, so that stuff's just a bit worrying. So I try to live a bit more in the moment, but it's been hard the last couple months because it just feels like every video I upload just doesn't do as well as I want it to. And it just takes so long to grow the subs now. Like it's not the worst ever, but it's like one of the lowest consistent sub growths I've had in the last couple, like I'd say since January 2021. I'm at like the bottom of like the sub growth per month. It's like 1.2k subs a month, like, which is fine because I know some people's channels don't even grow at a certain point, but it's like 2k a month, 3k. I've had these numbers. I even had like 9k, or was it 9? I think it was 9k over Christmas or some shit like that. Um, and when you're doing well, it's so much more fun. But because when you're doing well and you know you're in the YouTube algorithm, you just know everything you upload will do well, and you're confident in your content. But when you're kind of like stagnating a bit, you're kind of like, what can I do to break out of this funk? Maybe I could be like Senator Armstrong, war will break the economy out of this funk. But then it's just really hard to come up with good ideas and think like, some things will do well, like that Bill Maher one. I knew it would do well, but then that wasn't monetized, so it sucks. It sucks watching a video do well, and you're like, well, I literally made £0 off that. It's not yet like last week. It's like I have a video with 9k monetized. I have a video on like 37k demonetized, £0 for me. YouTube is just a bit shit like that, and it's annoying because the Bill Maher stuff. I was like, I could make this video where I don't talk about 9/11 and like WMDs in Iraq, but then I just think it's not a good video if I don't, so I got to talk about those things. But if I talk about those things, I can't monetize the video. So yeah, I'm hoping by the end of the year I'll look back at this period and be like, you're an idiot for even getting stressed. Like, you have 100k now, or even if I don't have 100k, because the thing I said to my girlfriend, I think I'm never hitting 200k. I'm never hitting 150k. So maybe I should just try and enjoy the journey to 100k, and it'd be nice to hit that milestone because then I'll stop worrying about subscribers because it's just like really legit. Where at the moment it's a bit like 74, 75. Like, it's fine, but I want 100. So yeah, it's also just weird. It's weird seeing other channels who upload like every 3 months, and the video gets like 20k views, and then but their sub growth is just so good. And I'm just like, how the fuck does that work? Like, your views are so low, mine are so much higher, but like your subs are so good. I don't know. You can't be jealous of other people. You can't compare yourself to other people. But yeah, it is definitely fucking not. It's stressful in its own ways. Kavernacle podcast. Yeah, me and my girlfriend did one for a bit, but just life has been busy, so we haven't seen each other like enough on days where we want to do nothing and we can do it. Maybe another time though. TMZ. I only know that from like parodies and shit. Yeah, Sid and Tatum. That's not actually a bad idea. The podcast thing. The thing is, what the only problem with YouTube, like, I have seen, like, I know Mooncat, that YouTuber who I like. I know she uses her Patreon a bit more like that. The problem for me is I message every single person who becomes a patron, and I would say like 70%, 75% of people never message back. And I'm assuming they just don't check their messages. But the problem being, I'm thinking if I uploaded exclusive content to Patreon, no one would fucking watch it, is what my problem is, because people just don't like using that platform. They just like give the money and then just don't engage with the actual website. Like, it would be nice if you could upload stuff and people would watch it there, but I have a feeling that most people who subscribe to me wouldn't even get the notification that it's there. Like, I wrote that big post on Patreon about shit, I kind of forgot to do. I wrote a big post on Patreon about going to Spain and stuff, and I think I only got like 10 likes or something, and I have like 300 patrons. So I'm like, okay, like, and I messaged everyone saying I just released it, and I was like, okay, well, most of you clearly just don't use Patreon, and that's fine. But yeah. Yeah, Sid and Tatum, but the problem is, not that it's a bad idea, saying that you can report on UK specific political or social topics. It's not a bad idea, but I didn't build my audience on that, and therefore, if I make a video about UK politics, it won't get the views from my own audience, meaning it probably won't get the general views either. So something like Novara Media, which is like British-based news organization on YouTube, that has built its whole audience on UK politics. So when it just covers UK political news stories, they get really good views because that's their audience. Whereas with my channel, that's not my audience. So unless people were searching for a specific news story, it's very unlikely that video would do well. So what you got to think about with YouTube is, like, think about how you built your audience, and you've got to cater it to them in some respects. Sometimes I've tried stuff, and sometimes I've tried new stuff, which I've been surprised have done well, but I'm happy. Like the Sigma male stuff, I did that whole series about the Sigma males and like Omega male and shit. Like, that did really well, and that surprised me because I'm like, I didn't really know if that would do well. And then stuff like the NoFap stuff did pretty well. As you know, I was happy about that. So sometimes you can do like new stuff and you'd be surprised and it does work. But then a lot of the time, you've got to think about, like, I don't know, you got to think about like what your audience want, which is fine because, like, I spent so long on this channel building an audience, and thankfully, like I said, I never pigeon my hole. That sounds so wrong. I never pigeonhole my stuff into like a very narrow bracket. Like, I've always talked about video games, movies, straight up politics, internet. Like, I've done all this stuff, so I can talk about all this stuff still, and I can get the views, which is really cool. But then at the same time, I definitely know there's stuff, like, for example, I probably wouldn't cover this necessarily because out of like respect for, like, I feel a bit uncomfortable sometimes making content that, like, I feel like exploits death and tragedy. So this reporter being killed in Israel, for example, me covering that like that Not that I would ever, like I said, I don't really like covering like mass shootings and shit like that, just because I've done it a couple times, but I feel kind of gross. Like I feel like even though my intention isn't to exploit this tragedy for like views and subs, I feel like that it can come across like that. So I don't really like doing it. But then even something like that, like news stories, like you have to find a way to frame it for your audience. So if I talked about this story today, I'd have to talk about something broader with Israel. I think like the new atheist loving Israel, like that's a topic, and the news stories don't do as well. And like I said, I this one's not a great example because I feel a bit uncomfortable covering this stuff sometimes. I don't mind covering it on the stream because I'm not, even if I titled this stream "Israel Kills Reporter," I wouldn't feel as bad because I know my streams don't bring in like loads of money or loads of views and loads of subscribers. So I don't feel like I'm exploiting the news story for that. But if I made like a whole video on it, I'd feel maybe like it's a bit exploitative. I don't know, because obviously I'm pretty upfront about my content and how I see it like growing my channel and stuff. So if people know that and me like, oh, Israeli kill this reporter, I don't know. And I think sometimes I'm not serious enough in my videos, but I do get quite animated about the Israel stuff and I cover it, but I don't know. It's just, yeah, sometimes I just don't feel comfortable covering certain things. But yeah, like news topics, like they just would not do that well anyway. So for me personally, because I have to be so specific about what I choose to cover, it's never really a good idea. Harrison. Oh, it's probably just like the American pronunciation. Do you still have COVID? No, I haven't had it since Tuesday now. So the algorithm's a cruel mistress. Yeah. As I said to my girlfriend, she hates me saying this. I said I feed the algorithm to keep me fed, but I said it in like a middle England accent to her, so she hated it even more. But then it pretty much is that, like, you feed the algorithm to keep you to make your money so you can buy food. Yeah, Sid and Tatum. That is interesting to be fair. Like I know people do use Patreon in that way. I guess maybe you have to build your Patreon in that way. Mine's just like, oh, you get the private patrons Discord and you get the Switch thing. Yeah, man, it's not a bad idea. I might start thinking about doing that. I just need to have a better mindset on my YouTube because I get too burnt out. Like not burnt out, but I think I need 4 days of doing nothing for the 3 days of hard work. Yeah, Jude, I used to be a journalist, so I don't want to do that. I was a journalist for like 2 years, and it was fun, and I did like it, and I probably would do it if I wasn't a YouTuber. But at the same time, not something I want to go back to, unless I had to, unless my YouTube channel got deleted and I couldn't get it back. You can make a gaming channel, yeah, but Jude, it's just too much work. Like a gaming channel, and what's the point as well? Like I make a gaming channel, I'll start uploading gaming stuff. It probably won't grow at all. I have my second channel, which is fine, and I talk about gaming stuff on here, which is I play video games on stream. I talk about gaming when it crosses over politics. Um, you know, starting up a gaming channel, starting up any second channel would be a waste of my time. I think, unless I'm just really passionate about something and I want to do it for like creative reasons. In terms of doing the YouTube as a job, I just don't have time to do a second channel, and I don't think it's really necessary either. Just because I talk about gaming on here, like, let me have a look. When's the last gaming video I made? Last gaming video was last week. Literally a week ago yesterday, so $20 a month patrons receive limited chocolate oranges. Yeah, that's not a bad idea actually. Everyone gets a new chocolate orange. Yeah, Nathan, it's not a bad idea. I talk about Israel loads on my channel though. I don't think it's something I've like not talked about because I'm thinking about money or something. Yeah, I do have my second channel. I'm bad at even uploading my streams. I need to upload the stream from Tuesday on it. I fucking forgot. Yeah, Deed rocked. He just called someone an anti-Semite for criticizing Israel killing that journalist, basically. Yeah, Jude, it's not a bad idea. It's just time. I haven't got time, to be honest. Like, I work over 40 hours a week on this channel specifically. Like, I haven't got time to, and I don't really have much desire to do it. Like, I mean, if that's bad for people with patrons, I'm sorry, but like, I'm kind of like at my limit of working with what I'm doing right now, to be honest. I'd love to have an editor, but I just can't fucking afford it. So, yeah, Raid. Yeah, Raid, give me that fucking sponsorship. I'd actually take it as well. All right, I actually am going to end the stream now. I've been saying I will for like an hour. All right, everyone. Appreciate you listening to me ramble about how oppressed I am as a YouTuber. I'm messing though. Like, YouTube is stressful in its own ways. I wouldn't trade it for a job. I hated my job. I hated working up London. I hated being a journalist. I hated my boss. So, I lived in Spain 3 months. I'm gonna go live in Vietnam for like 4 months. Like, the freedom of having that and getting better money than my old job is something I can't complain about. It's just there's obviously, like you guys will know, some of you self-employed. There's just a lot of stress to not having like a salary paid to you every month no matter what. Basically, it's just you've got to grind out stuff for your money, and you know you're everything's done on your own, and you don't have any help, and that's the hard part. But I can't complain really. I always like working better on my own anyway. Yeah, Katie, exactly. When I was off of COVID, I made 4 videos when I had COVID, and I felt terrible for the first 2. But what was I meant to do? Just not do it. um, yeah, YouTubers are essential workers. Exactly. Anyway, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate the super chats. People gave me them as well. And I might stream on Sunday. Maybe just play some fucking Wii again, which I was doing last Sunday. And yeah, have a good weekend. Definitely stream next Tuesday or Monday, and look out for tomorrow's video. Have no fucking clue what's going to be on, but maybe it's going to be that comedian shit. Yeah, so see you guys later. Thanks so much for listening to my rambling.